Philip Quirk asked me to join him on one of his dreams, which was to have Australia's first photographic agency all up. I think kind of based on the Magnum philosophy, and it was called the Wildlight Photo Agency. It was based at Bondi Beach in Sydney. It was 3 years before the bicentennial, so we had something to work towards. And what we were working towards was to be able to become Australia's first and only photographic agency, and we became that. That contained landscape photographers, art photographers, reportage photographers, street photographers, documentary photographers, editorial photographers. Then the idea was to go out and find photographic partners, so the partners around the world. So that eventuated in doing a world trip, and I took a portfolio of everyone's work, which in those days was all transparencies, no prints, in a black case, which I guarded with my life. I used to dream at night of losing it, leaving it at railway stations, but I took it dutifully all around the world. So we went to Japan. Well, I went to Japan. New York, Washington, San Francisco, London, Italy, Milan, where all the publishers were. Washington, National Geographic. We went to Stockholm, Sweden. I think we were just the flavour of the month in the fact that our photography was so raw. These landscapes, the deserts, the mountains, indigenous works. For some reason, there was a lot of synchronicity in a lot of the photographers that worked for Wildlight, and it came together beautifully. It was exciting, it was raw, it was new, it was different, and we had the combination of all that. And I think it put Wildlight, and I think it put the photographers on the map really, really quickly, and they held their own. They did it beautifully, and I think the fact that we did our first day in the life of Australia, I held a massive party in our backyard in Woollahra and had every famous photographer from around the world in Sydney, and that was all due to the Wildlight Photo Agency. Rick Smolin was with National Geographic, and he was the one that went to Singapore and said, okay, let's do a day in the life of Australia. And then it just took off. I think photography now is definitely in many, many different sections. It's changing so much, but I think it's really important that we differentiate between what's a good photograph, what's an art photograph, what's a graphic photograph, what's a manipulated photograph. I think they all have their own sections. But when you've got a digital camera that does a lot, and when you've also got computers that do phenomenal works, it feels like it's moving out of photography into a different realm, using photographic equipment, using computers. The word photography now has been spread right across the board. I've seen photographic exhibitions where I think, oh, well, is this actually photography? And then I've sort of found out that computers were used, lenses were used. So I think photography needs to be defined. I'm very passionate about reportage photography because for me, I reckon that's the hardest. Every photographer has their own edge, their own flavour and their own purpose. And I think being an individual photographer and showing your own flair and discovering your own beauty, I think that's what separates us as photographers.